My husband told me to prove my loyalty to his family. Family stands together, Jack said, his voice steady, almost gentle. Blood saves blood. So I gave his mother my kidney. 4 days after the surgery, while my body was still stitched together, while pain crawled through my veins like fire, Jack walked into my hospital room. But he wasn't alone. A woman in a deep red dress clung to his arm. The fabric flowed like fresh blood, soft and deliberate, as if she wanted me to notice it. Behind them, a nurse pushed Selena into the room in a wheelchair. My mother-in-law smiled. Jack didn't look at me. He didn't ask how I felt. He didn't say thank you. He tossed a brown envelope onto my chest. Divorce papers. And in that moment, as the paper slid down against my hospital gown, I understood something that made my blood run cold. Jack had never married me to love me. And Selena had never wanted my kidney for herself. But Jack didn't know the most important thing yet. He didn't know where my kidney actually went. Before I tell you how everything collapsed, let me tell you who I was before they tried to erase me. My name is Sarah. I was 9 years old when my parents died on Interstate 75, just outside Atlanta. A semi-truck ran a red light. My father didn't even have time to swerve. My mother, sitting beside him, took the full impact. I remember her hand reaching for mine, her lips moving without sound. Maybe she was saying my name. Maybe she was saying goodbye. That moment split my life in two. In one half, there were memories that still hurt to touch. My mother's hands, always smelling of cocoa butter. My father's loud laughter on Sunday mornings when he threw me into the air and caught me at the last second. In the other half, there was the foster system. Gray walls, echoing hallways, metal beds lined in rows, staff who rotated every few months and never remembered our names. I learned fast that love was temporary, that people left, that survival meant being quiet, useful, and grateful. When I aged out at 18, no one came to get me. I walked out with a trash bag of clothes and nowhere to go. I earned a degree in accounting from a community college, not because it was my dream, but because it offered housing assistance. Dreams are luxuries when you're hungry. Employers smiled politely at my resume. We'll call you. They never did. Eventually, I moved to Atlanta and took a job as a sales consultant in a luxury boutique in Buckhead. The pay was small, but the store was full of things I could only imagine owning: silk scarves, leather bags, perfumes that smelled like other people's lives. Sometimes, while folding scarves, I wondered if fate would ever notice me. That's when Jack walked in. He was tall, confident, wearing the kind of clothes that didn't need logos. He came looking for a birthday gift for his mother. He spent nearly an hour sorting through scarves, watching me more than the merchandise. I helped him without flattery, without pushing the expensive pieces, even though I needed the commission badly. When he paid with a black card, he looked at me and said, "Do you always speak so calmly?" "How else should I speak?" I replied. "People usually flatter or look down on others. I do neither." Something changed in his expression. He came back the next day. Then again. Then just to talk. A month later, he invited me to dinner at a restaurant I had only seen online. Menus without prices, words I couldn't pronounce, glasses that cost more than my rent. Across the table, he took my hand. "Are you alone in the world, Sarah?" he asked softly. "No family left," I said. "No one." "We can fix that," he whispered. 6 months later, we were married at a courthouse. No white dress. No guests. No photographs. "My mother hates waste," Jack said. "She prefers simplicity." I told myself it didn't matter. I finally had a family. Even if Selena looked at me like dirt beneath her shoes. Even if I felt like a trespasser in their Alpharetta mansion, afraid to open the fridge without permission. I tried harder than anyone ever had. I cooked meals Selena barely tasted. I bought gifts she never used. I smiled when she called me charity in front of guests. For 2 years, I swallowed everything. Then Selena got sick. Kidney failure. Dialysis 3 times a week. Her heart weakening. Doctors shaking their heads. She doesn't have years, one said. Months, maybe weeks. Jack dropped to his knees in the hospital corridor. You're the only one who can save her, he said. You're a perfect match. I asked the question that should have saved me. What about you? He showed me medical papers, incompatibility, stamps, signatures. I'd give her both kidneys if I could. I believed him. For 3 days, he didn't let me think. Coffee in bed. Soft words. Promises. After this, he whispered, you'll finally be family. So I signed the papers. I didn't understand the clause about reallocating the organ. I just wanted it over. The surgery lights blurred into white. Jack kissed my forehead. I'll be here when you wake up. He was. I woke up in a public ward. Pain tearing through my side. No Jack. 4 days later, he arrived. With another woman. And divorce papers. And that's when I realized I was never his wife. I was inventory. The brown envelope slid down my chest and landed near the drainage tube at my side. Divorce papers. The word felt unreal, like it belonged to someone else's life, not mine. My hands were trembling so badly that I had to press them against the thin hospital blanket just to stop them from shaking. Jack, my throat was dry, my voice came out cracked. I don't understand. Jack didn't move closer. He didn't touch me. He stood there like a stranger waiting for an elevator. You don't need to understand, he said calmly. You just need to sign. Behind him, the woman in the red dress leaned against the wall, arms folded, watching me like a finished project. She was beautiful in a sharp, expensive way. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect confidence. The kind of woman who had never doubted her place in the world. Selena cleared her throat. The sound snapped through the room like a whip. You look awful, she said, her eyes flicking to the tubes and monitors. Hospitals do that to people like you. People like you. I swallowed hard. Your kidney, did the surgery go well? Selena smiled. Not warmly, not gratefully. She smiled the way someone smiles when they've won. Oh, you were very useful, she said. I suppose I should thank you for that. The monitor beside my bed began to beat faster. Jack sighed, irritated. Let's not drag this out. I looked at him, really looked at him, searching for the man who used to bring me tea when I worked late, who once told me I was the strongest person he'd ever known. Why, I whispered, why would you do this to me? The woman in red stepped forward. Because you were convenient, she said smoothly. My name is Alina. Jack and I have been together since before he ever met you. She slid her hand into his, her fingers fitting there easily. While I was abroad building my career, Jack needed a solution, a temporary one. My ears rang. Selena laughed softly. You should feel proud. Not everyone gets selected for something so important. Selected. Like a product. You married me, I said to Jack. You slept next to me for 2 years. And, his eyes were cold now, you knew what you were getting, stability, a house, a name, you should be grateful. Grateful. For being harvested. Alina placed a hand on her stomach. The gesture was small, casual. Devastating. There's a baby, she said, smiling. The real future of this family. The room tilted. Jack straightened as if proud. We needed everything clean before the birth, no loose ends. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just disposable. I was a risk. No one would look for you, Selena said quietly. No parents, no siblings, no one asking questions. My chest tightened until I couldn't breathe. You planned this, I whispered. Jack didn't deny it. You signed the consent forms, he said, voluntarily. My hands curled into fists. I'll go to the police. Jack smiled then. Not kindly. Tell them what? That you agreed, that you signed, that you're emotional and confused after surgery. He reached into his pocket and dropped a bundle of cash onto my bedside table. 10,000, he said. That's generous considering my kidney. Selena waved dismissively. We're done here. The nurse hesitated, uncomfortable. Mrs. Not my problem, Selena snapped. Wheel me out. They turned toward the door. And that's when it opened. A man in a white coat stepped inside, his presence commanding the room instantly. What is going on here? His voice was sharp, controlled. 2 nurses followed him. He glanced at the monitor, at my face, at the people near the door. His jaw tightened. I'm Dr. Keller, he said, and this patient is 4 days post-nephrectomy. Who authorized this visit? Jack stiffened. This is a private family matter. Dr. Keller's eyes flicked to him, unimpressed. No, he said flatly, it's not. He turned to Selena. Your transplant was canceled. Silence crashed over the room. What? Selena screeched. That's impossible. Your final blood work revealed complications, Dr. Keller said calmly. Proceeding would have killed you. Jack's face drained of color. The kidney, he demanded. Dr. Keller folded his arms. Reallocated to the next compatible patient on the National Registry. I felt something flicker inside me. A spark. Who? I whispered. Dr. Keller looked at me, his expression softening. The recipient asked that you be informed, he said. His name is Daniel Sterling. The air left the room. Jack stumbled back a step. Everyone knew the name. Billionaire, developer, philanthropist. A man powerful enough to bury people without touching them. Jack's voice broke. That's impossible. No, Dr. Keller said. It's protocol. Jack rushed toward me suddenly, desperation replacing arrogance. Sarah, he said quickly, we can fix this. Forget the papers, this was just stress. I pulled my hand away. Security, I said quietly. They were removed. All of them. Selena screaming. Elena frozen in shock. Jack pleading. The door closed. And for the first time since the surgery, I could breathe. An hour later, I was moved to a private suite overlooking the city. A man named Marcus Hale, Daniel Sterling's chief of staff, explained everything. All expenses covered. Recovery fully supported. He considers debt sacred, Marcus said. You saved his life. I cried that night. Not from pain. From release. A week later, a lawyer arrived. Jack had registered assets in my name. Properties, shares, accounts. He assumed you never leave, the lawyer said. By filing for divorce without contesting assets, he forfeited them. Jack had built his own trap. 3 weeks later, I met Daniel Sterling. He looked at me carefully. You were kind without protection, he said. That's dangerous in this world. He offered mentorship. Adoption. Power. I took his hand. Teach me, I said. And that was the day Sarah died. And someone else was born. The first thing Daniel Sterling taught me was this. Pain is useless unless you turn it into leverage. I learned that lesson at 5 a.m, barefoot on cold marble floors, my side still aching where a piece of me used to be. Again, Daniel said, tapping his cane once against the ground. I tightened my jaw and lifted the light weights one more time. My muscles screamed. Sweat burned my eyes. The scar along my left side pulled like it wanted to tear open again. You don't get stronger by pretending it doesn't hurt, he continued calmly. You get stronger by deciding the pain works for you. This wasn't charity. This was training. 3 weeks after I was moved into the executive recovery suite, Daniel had me relocated again, this time to a private residence overlooking Piedmont Park. Not a mansion, not flashy. Clean, minimal, secure. The goal isn't luxury, he told me during my first breakfast there. Luxury distracts, control requires clarity. Every hour of my day was scheduled. 5:00 a.m. physical therapy. 6:30 a.m. nutrition and medical check. 7:00 a.m. breakfast with Daniel and the financial press. 8:00 a.m. to 00 p.m. private instruction. 3:00 p.m. 6:00 p.m. shadowing negotiations, calls, meetings. Evenings reading, analysis, silence. No television. No social media. No contact with my old life. Sarah the boutique girl didn't exist here. And slowly, she stopped existing inside me too. The tutors came first. Corporate law. Mergers and acquisitions. Tax shelters. Asset protection. I learned how companies hid money legally and illegally. I learned how debt could be used as a leash. How do you break a man like Jack? One tutor asked during a hypothetical. Public exposure, I offered. He smiled faintly. No, he'd survive that. Prison. Too fast. I hesitated. Take his future, I said slowly. Let him watch it collapse inch by inch. The tutor nodded. Good, that's how predators think. Daniel watched everything. He never interfered unless I was wrong. When I misread a financial report, he didn't correct me immediately. He let me explain, let me commit to the mistake. Then he dismantled my reasoning piece by piece. You see what you want to see, he said. That's how people like Jack operate. That's how they fail. I began to understand. Jack hadn't beaten me because he was smarter. He'd beaten me because I wanted to belong. That weakness was gone. 3 months passed. The scar faded from angry red to pale silver. My body healed. My mind sharpened. My voice changed. No more hesitations. No more apologies. No more explaining myself. When I spoke, people listened. When I paused, they waited. Daniel noticed. You're ready for phase 2, he said one morning. I looked up from a balance sheet. What's phase 2? He smiled thinly. Learning how to smile while you tighten the rope. Jack, meanwhile, was unraveling. Marcus Hale kept me updated. Selena's condition is worsening, he reported during one briefing. Dialysis 3 times a week, complications. And Jack, I asked neutral. He's bleeding cash. Medical bills alone are over $50,000 a month. I said nothing. Elena is planning a wedding, Marcus added. Big one. She's pushing Jack to show strength publicly. Of course she was. Elena didn't love Jack. She loved security. And Jack was desperate to prove he still had it. Vulnerable people make loud moves, Daniel said. That's when you strike. The legal team arrived a week later. They spread documents across the table like a chessboard. Jack transferred several assets into your name during the marriage, the lead attorney said. Warehouses, commercial property, minority shares in his company. He used me as a shield, I murmured. Yes, the attorney confirmed. And by filing for divorce without contesting assets, he forfeited all claim. I felt something twist in my chest, not guilt. Amusement. He thought I was too stupid to notice, I said. Daniel chuckled. Arrogance is the most reliable poison. What do we do? I asked. Daniel leaned back. We wait, and we build something he wants. That's how Apex Meridian was born. A shell investment firm, registered quietly through Delaware. No visible ties to Sterling Development. Nominee directors, clean records. On paper, Apex Meridian specialized in rescuing mid-sized manufacturing companies with cash flow problems. In reality, it was bait. Jack's company, Royce Textiles, was bleeding. Orders down. Suppliers unpaid. Banks hesitant. He needed a miracle. So we sent him one. An invitation. Gold embossed, hand-delivered. Exclusive investor gala, hosted by Apex Meridian. Marcus showed me the RSVP. Jack had accepted within an hour. He didn't even ask who was behind it, Marcus said. I smiled. He never does. The gala was held on the top floor of the Westin, overlooking downtown Atlanta. Crystal chandeliers. Champagne fountains. Music soft enough to imply power. I stood backstage in a mirror-lined corridor while stylists finished my look. Hair cut sharp at the jawline. Makeup subtle, deadly. A tailored emerald gown that whispered money, not begged for attention. Daniel stood beside me. You don't need revenge, he said quietly. You need closure. I met his eyes. This is closure. The announcer tapped the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of Apex Meridian, Miss Sarah Sterling. The name landed like a bomb. I stepped onto the stage. The room fell silent. Then, gasps, whispers. Shock rippled outward like a wave. Jack stood near the bar, frozen. Elena's smile cracked. Selena wasn't there, too sick, but her absence loomed like a shadow. I spoke calmly. About growth. Transparency. Partnerships. I never once looked at Jack. That hurt him more than anything. After the speech, he pushed through the crowd. Sarah, he said, breathless, we need to talk. I turned slowly. Do we? I asked politely. You're alive, he stammered. I smiled. I was always alive, Jack. You just never noticed. He reached for my arm. Security stepped in. Business inquiries go through my office, I said coolly. Monday, 9 a.m. I walked away. Behind me, Elena hissed, we have to leave. Jack shook his head. No, this is our way out. He was already tightening the noose. Monday morning. Jack sat across from me in a glass conference room. He looked smaller. Tired. Desperate. We're prepared to invest $2 million, I said, after the analysts finished tearing apart his fake numbers. His eyes lit up. A loan, I continued. Convertible, collateralized. Of course, he nodded quickly. On all company shares, I added, and personal assets. He hesitated. Standard, I said. He signed. That signature sealed his fate. Because the assets he pledged belonged to me. That night, Marcus brought me another file. Elena. Bank transfers. Photos. Hotel footage. And a pregnancy timeline that didn't add up. I did the math once. Then twice. Then smiled. She's playing him, Marcus said. So was I replied softly. The difference is I learned. I closed the folder. Let him have hope, I said. It makes the fall unforgettable. Jack Royce slept for the first time in months the night after signing the deal. Hope does that to desperate men. He went home believing salvation had arrived, wearing my face, my voice, my old name reshaped into something sharp and expensive. He believed the universe had circled back to forgive him. He was wrong. By Wednesday, the first domino fell. Marcus Hale walked into my office with his tablet, expression unreadable. Royce Textiles missed a supplier payment in Vietnam, he said. Apex Meridian is now contractually obligated to protect its investment. Meaning, I asked, already knowing. We step in. I nodded once. Do it. Within hours, Apex Meridian's compliance team launched a routine audit. Nothing dramatic. Nothing aggressive. Just questions. And questions terrify liars. Jack called me that evening. Sarah, he said, forcing cheer, your people are thorough. I like to know where my money lives, I replied calmly. Well, of course, it's just some of these documents go back years. Then you should have no problem producing them, I said. Silence stretched. Then laughter, fake, tight. Right, of course. I hung up first. Daniel, listening quietly from the corner, nodded approvingly. You let him hear the clock ticking, he said. Now he'll make mistakes. Elena made the first one. She showed up unannounced. My assistant buzzed my office. There's a woman here insisting on seeing you, says it's personal. I smiled. Send her in. Elena swept in wearing white silk and confidence stitched together with fear. Her eyes scanned the room, cataloging power. So, she said lightly, this is where you landed. Sit, I replied. She didn't. I won't waste time, she said. Jack needs flexibility. Your audit is intense. I tilted my head. That's business. Her smile sharpened. Let's be honest, Sarah, this isn't business. This is personal. I stood. Slowly. This, I said, gesturing around the room, is what happens when someone survives what you couldn't imagine. Her eyes flicked, just once. Jack is under pressure, she continued. His mother is dying, the company. You're pregnant, I interrupted. The word hit her like a slap. Her hand flew instinctively to her stomach. I let the silence stretch until it became unbearable. Jack thinks it's his, I said softly. She swallowed. It is. I smiled. No, I said. The timeline doesn't agree. Her composure cracked. You don't know anything, she snapped. I know who you were with in Miami, I said calmly. I know how much he paid. I know when. Her face drained of color. You also transferred $40,000 from Jack's account without his knowledge, I added. That's theft. She backed toward the door. What do you want? She whispered. I leaned forward. Nothing, I said, just watching. She fled. That night, Jack didn't sleep. By Friday, his world was hemorrhaging. The audit uncovered discrepancies. Suppliers froze shipments. Banks requested reassurance. Apex Meridian, me expressed concern. Jack called again. We need to restructure, he said urgently, just temporarily. That's possible, I replied, if conditions are met. Anything. I paused. I want a seat on the board, I said. Fine. Majority voting rights. He hesitated. That's non-negotiable. He agreed. Because desperate men always do. Daniel visited Selena that weekend. He didn't tell Jack. Selena lay frail beneath hospital lights, her skin translucent, her breath shallow. But her eyes, those were still sharp. You look familiar, she said weakly. Daniel smiled gently. I knew your daughter-in-law. Her eyes widened. Sarah. She's alive, he said. Tears slid down Selena's temples. She warned me, Selena whispered. I didn't listen. Daniel placed a folder beside her bed. Then help her now. Inside were documents. Proof. Selena signed with trembling hands. Monday morning, the board meeting began at 9. Jack arrived pale, jittery, suit wrinkled. He barely looked at me as he took his seat. I watched him unravel in real time. The CFO presented revised numbers. They were worse. Way worse. I don't understand, Jack said. These projections are accurate, I said, assuming current liabilities. Which liabilities? He snapped. I clicked a remote. The screen lit up. Medical debt. Personal loans. Unreported withdrawals. And then, property titles. Transferred. To Sarah Sterling, the screen read. Jack froze. What is this? He whispered. I met his eyes. Your shield, I said softly. Remember. The room buzzed. Board members murmured. You used your wife to hide assets, I continued calmly, and then you discarded her. He stood. This is a setup. Yes, I said, and you walked into it. The legal counsel cleared his throat. Given these findings, he said carefully, Apex Meridian is invoking its conversion rights. What does that mean? Jack demanded. I stood. It means, I said, I own Royce Textiles. The room went silent. Jack staggered back into his chair. No, he breathed, you wouldn't. I already have, I replied. He broke that afternoon. Security escorted him from the building. Alina didn't answer his calls. The press smelled blood. Headlines exploded. Textile tycoon FALLS from Grace. Mystery, CEO EXPOSES corporate fraud. Jack came to my office that night. No appointment. No dignity. He fell to his knees. I was scared, he sobbed. I didn't know how to stop. I looked down at him. You pushed me, I said. You watched me bleed. You signed papers while I was dying. I thought you were gone, he cried. I was, I said. You made sure of that. I turned away. Security, I said quietly. They removed him. Alina's story broke the next day. Photos. Affairs. Financial manipulation. She disappeared from society overnight. Selena passed peacefully 2 days later. She left a letter. Sarah, I failed you when you needed me. I won't fail you now. I cried for the first time in a year. Not from pain. From release. That evening, Daniel joined me on the balcony. You won, he said. I shook my head. No, I'm finished. He smiled. That's the same thing. I looked out over the city. The girl who begged to belong was gone. In her place stood someone who could choose. And choosing not to destroy what remained of Jack. That was power too. Jack Royce didn't disappear loudly. Men like him never do. They fade, quietly, painfully, into the corners of the world they once ruled, watching others sit in chairs they believed were carved with their names. By the time the dust settled, his name had become a warning. 3 weeks after the takeover, Royce Textiles no longer existed. It was rebranded. Sterling FABRICS Group. New leadership. New ethics charter. New supply chain contracts. Workers kept their jobs. Factories stayed open. Only one thing vanished. Jack. I stood alone in the former executive office on the top floor, staring at the city through the same glass wall Jack once used to survey his empire. He used to stand right here, hands behind his back, pride in his posture, arrogance in his breath, believing the world owed him obedience. Daniel joined me quietly. You could sell it, he said, triple your investment. I know. You could crush him further, he added, legally, publicly. I know. I turned to him. But I won't. Daniel studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded once. Good, he said. You didn't become powerful to stay angry. Jack tried once more. A handwritten letter. No lawyer. No threats. Just desperation soaked into cheap paper. Sarah, I don't expect forgiveness. I just need to understand how I lost everything. I folded the letter carefully, then burned it. Understanding was a privilege. He had forfeited the day he signed papers while I was bleeding. Alina resurfaced months later. Not in magazines. Not at galas. In court. Fraud charges. Identity manipulation. Financial theft. The child was Jack's. It never was. Jack found out the truth alone, in a rented apartment, reading a court transcript instead of holding a future he thought belonged to him. That knowledge aged him faster than prison ever could have. Selena's will was executed quietly. No press. No spectacle. She left her remaining assets to a medical trust, dialysis access for families who couldn't afford it. And one line, written in shaky ink. To Sarah, not as apology, but as acknowledgement. I kept that page. Not the money. Sterling Fabric Group thrived. Not because it was ruthless. Because it was precise. We paid suppliers early. We treated workers like humans. We refused bribes. We walked away from dirty money. Investors followed. They always do. One evening, almost a year later, I returned to the boutique where everything began. It was smaller than I remembered. The mannequins were outdated. The register squeaked when opened. The girl behind the counter looked up, tired, hopeful. "Can I help you?" she asked. I smiled. "Yes," I said. "I'd like to buy the store." Her eyes widened. "All of it." "All of it." I turned it into a scholarship-funded fashion lab. Young women. No gatekeepers. No predators in suits pretending love was a contract. Daniel retired 6 months later. He didn't fade either. He simply stopped showing up. Left me a note. "You don't need a mentor anymore. Now be one." I never changed my name again. Sarah Sterling stayed. Not because of Daniel. Because I earned it. Sometimes people ask if I regret not destroying Jack completely. I don't answer. Because the truth is, I didn't need to. He wakes up every day knowing the woman he underestimated now owns the future he thought was guaranteed. That knowledge is heavier than chains. On the anniversary of my survival, I stood on the same balcony overlooking the city. Same skyline. Different woman. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I wasn't proving anything. I was free. And freedom, real freedom, is when your past no longer gets a vote in who you become.